You're listening to End Zone Scoop, the show where three women discuss the beautiful game of American football. So join me, Bhandari from NFLGirlUK, and my co-host Dayna O'Gorman from Our Turf Football, and Shona Duthie from 99 Yards. Enjoy the show! Hello everyone, and welcome back to End Zone Scoop. We've had ourselves a little break since the Super Bowl, but we're excited to let you know that we'll be here talking game every 3 weeks until the new season begins, and then every 2 weeks throughout the season. Now, ladies, doesn't it feel so good to be back?
I mean, it feels like we have not been away any time at all. It's like gone by in a flash in a pan.
Really? I feel like it's been forever. And that's because there was a delayed start to my soccer season, and I don't know, the draft seemed forever away this year. So I am thrilled. It finally feels like football is really back.
Football is back. So the NFL draft took place this weekend. So in this episode, we'll take a look at the first round picks and the biggest draft steals. We'll also delve into the OTAs and the off-season schedule, including key dates and activities, and whether players will be attending. And finally, as we always do, we'll take a look at your listener questions.
So I want to go ahead and start with the first round of the draft. Now, obviously, we're not going to give in-depth analysis on every single pick because, oh my God, who has time for that, right? Like it would just be forever. But let's go ahead and just kind of give some highlights on a few things. So the first few picks and the first two picks, we've known for months, right? Exactly who this was going to be, where they were going to go. So obviously the Jaguars picked Trevor Lawrence, a quarterback out of Clemson, and the Jets picked Zach Wilson, a quarterback out of BYU. Now there were a few of the experts out there who really thought the Jets should have leaned more towards Justin Fields. They thought he would have been a better pick there, but the Jets got the guy that they wanted. He's an All-American kid in New York City. I really hope he does well. The New York press can eat you up and spit you out. So I hope that the kid is prepared. He came from BYU in the middle of Utah. He was born and raised in Utah. I hope he can handle it. Hopefully he's got good people around him, but everyone loved those picks. Obviously they were huge pieces, positions of need for both of the teams. And so it should suit them well. It was really pick three that people weren't sure what was going to happen. Obviously, the San Francisco 49ers moved up in the draft. They went ahead and kind of gave away the farm to get to the third pick, which then most people knew was going to be for a quarterback, especially with the way Jimmy Garoppolo, their current quarterback, has played over the last few years, all of his injuries. We knew that there would probably have to be a change there. We just didn't know who it was going to be. And apparently, according to Shanahan, they didn't tell anybody. Like he and John Lynch, they kept it completely to themselves, even from their staff. So they picked quarterback Trey Lance out of North Dakota State University. Now, there were some people who did not think this was a good idea, that Lance, while he's very talented, super high football IQ, he's going to need a minute. Like he's got a little bit of work in progress. I think he only played 1 to 2 games this last season. Granted, it was a COVID season, so everyone would put an asterisk by, but still. And so it'll be interesting to see how they appease Jimmy Garoppolo long enough to keep him around to train his replacement. It's a lot like what's going on up in Green Bay right now, which we all know is not going very well at all. So then we had the Falcons pick Kyle Pitts. That was a no-brainer. The kid is an instant starter. He's fantastic, so athletic. The Bengals picked Jamar Chase, wide receiver. Obviously, that too, great pick. The Bengals need someone for Joe Burrow to throw to. And so I think that is going to be a very nice fit for them. The Dolphins also picked up a wide receiver. This was a great wide receiver class. We have to keep that in mind. They picked up Jalen Waddle out of Alabama. Speed. Fast, quick. They compare him a lot to Tyreek Hill. So that is I think it'll be a really huge help to Tua, who showed a great promise last season, but we also know he needed some more work. The Dolphins are right there, you guys. I just keep thinking about they're just right there. They're right on the edge of being insanely good. So they're going to be fun to watch. The Lions picked up Penei Sewell, offensive tackle out of Oregon. This one, I don't think anyone actually thought Sewell would actually make it to the 7th pick. The Lions must have been out of their mind to get him. Like they were so excited because he will be a huge help because God knows Jared Goff is going to need some protection up there. I forget. I literally forgot until the draft that Stafford was back in LA. I completely forgot about it. But anyway, so then there were a couple cornerbacks that came off the board. The Panthers chose J.C. Horn out of South Carolina. The Broncos at the 9th pick picked up Patrick Surtain II out of Alabama. Surtain's father played for the Broncos, so this was kind of a legacy pick, and it was a great pick for them. The kid is super talented. He'll do very well. The Broncos have to figure out how to deal with the Chiefs, and so therefore this is a great pick for them. The same with Horn, though. A lot of people thought Surtain would go before Horn, but Horn is a good fit for the Panthers. And then with the 10th pick, the Eagles picked up wide receiver Devontae Smith. Such a good wide receiver. That's going to be really fun. And then the Bears picked up quarterback Justin Fields out of Ohio State. Now, I don't know if you guys watched the draft, but you could just hear the commentators going, Justin Fields and Mac are still there. Why are the other two quarterbacks still there? Why haven't they been picked up? Like it was like some sort of, conspiracy theory against him. But let me tell you, the Bears fans I know were out of their minds when Justin Fields was sitting there at the 11th pick. If the Bears need anything, they need a quarterback. And so this was a fantastic pick. They gave up a lot to get there, but they truly ended up with what a lot of people consider the second best quarterback in the draft. And so it was fantastic. And I'm very excited for Bears fans. 12th pick, Cowboys picked Micah Parsons, linebacker out of Penn State. Chargers picked up then at 13, Rashawn Slater, offensive tackle out of Northwestern. He's going to be an immediate starter for them. Justin Herbert needed more protection, obviously such a talented quarterback, but he's going to need more protection. And this kid is going to be able to start immediately. The Jets then picked again at pick 14, and they picked up Elijah Vera Tucker. I hope I'm saying his first name right. Offensive lineman out of USC. Once again, you have a rookie quarterback, and now you have a rookie lineman. But you know what? It's a rebuild year. We'll see what they do with it. At 15, the Patriots then picked up the 4th quarterback of the draft, Mac Jones, a quarterback out of Alabama. They say he's a really good fit for Josh McDaniels' offense. So it makes you wonder if Josh McDaniels had a lot to do with this pick, since a lot of people really believe he's the heir apparent to Bill Belichick. So we'll see how that he fares up in New England. But let's not forget, Cam Newton was re-signed up there also. 16, the Cardinals picked up Zaven Collins, fantastic linebacker out of Tulsa. I was not happy as a Seahawks fan to see them pick up Collins, but he's going to play very, very well for them. Super versatile player. He's going to be a lot of fun to watch. 17, the Raiders picked up Alex Leatherwood. That was really the first stretch. A lot of people weren't happy with that pick. They thought that he was more of a second rounder. Dolphins picked again. It seemed like the Dolphins picked every other pick in this draft. At pick 18, they picked up Jalen Phillips, edge rusher out of Miami. So a Miami kid gets to stay in Miami. The Washington football team picked up Jamin Davis, linebacker out of Kentucky. Wonderful linebacker, will play very well there. And then the Giants. Let me tell you, when the Giants moved back, you could hear a collective gasp, because that is not what the Giants do. The Giants stay firm where they are, right? And so for them to move back and to still get Kadarius Toney out of Florida, wide receiver, that was fantastic. It was wonderful. He is a big play threat for the offense. We still have a lot of question marks about the quarterback in New York, but they definitely picked up a fantastic wide receiver. So kudos to the Giants for that. The Colts at 21 picked up Kwity Paye, an edge rusher out of Michigan. And then the Titans picked up Caleb Farley, quarterback out of Virginia Tech. Now, I'm going to stop here for a minute because I don't know if you guys remember, but about a week or two before the draft, there was some question marks. Are they even going to be, 3 to 4 defensive players picked in the first round? Yes, there were. This was a fantastic defensive draft. At 23, the Vikings picked up Christian Darrisaw, offensive tackle out of Virginia Tech. 25, the Steelers picked up Najee Harris. And at 24, and then at 25, the Jaguars picked up Travis Etienne, both running backs, Harris out of Alabama, Etienne out of Clemson. Here's the funny thing. If you talk to most draft analysts, they don't like running backs in the first round. They don't think they should have a first round pick. But it was interesting to see 2 go boom, boom, back to back. Basically, the grades for those players were C's. They just didn't like these picks, even though that they were both a position of need for these two teams. At 26, the Browns picked up Greg Newsome II, cornerback out of Northwestern. 27, Ravens picked up Rashad Bateman, wide receiver out of Minnesota. There were better options, people thought, than Bateman, but the Ravens were thrilled to get him. So good for them. At 28, the Saints picked up Peyton Turner, edge rusher in Houston. 29, the Packers picked up Eric Stokes, cornerback in Georgia. They picked up a defensive player. When their quarterback's pissed, wanting a trade, wanting more help, and all the things that Aaron Rodgers said over the last few days, they picked up a cornerback. Made you scratch your head a little bit. All right. At pick 30, the Bills picked up Gregory Rousseau, I believe is how you say it. He's an edge rusher out of Miami. Good, strong player for the Bills when they already have a very stout defense. At pick 31, the Ravens picked up Jason, I think it's Owe is how you say it, edge rusher out of Penn State. Really talented kid. Could be really turned into a fantastic player. The interesting thing is that the Ravens really didn't need him. They didn't need that position. So it was interesting that they took him in the first round. So maybe they see something that other people don't. And then at 32, the final pick of the first round, the Buccaneers picked up Joe Tryon, edge rusher out of Washington. It made sense for depth. I mean, really, when you get to pick 32, you're not really picking in the first round. I mean, you are, but they're usually, graded at second round players when you get into the 20s and further down in the draft. And so they were just picking up some depth there, which was really smart. So it was interesting because I don't think there were really many surprises when it came to these players. I think that there wasn't a big shock other than the Giants trading back, which I think a lot of people were surprised about. But for the most part, these were all really solid players in really good places and taken there's one or two, but pretty much appropriately.
Girl, that was amazing.
Sorry, guys. Did I talk too long?
No, I loved that. That was so good.
And breathe, Dayna. And now breathe.
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
Now, we usually save listener questions to the end, but we've gotten two that are completely relevant with the first round of the draft. So we're going to talk about them now. So I'm going to start with you, Shona. So Matt Cullen asks us, which team had the best draft and which team had the worst draft? And why do you feel that way?
I think the Dolphins had the best draft and the Raiders had the worst. I think the Dolphins were good because they got in Jalen Waddle, and that keeps, improving their big play, potential around Tua Tagovailoa. I can never say his last name. And then they also got Liam Eichenberg from Notre Dame, who should be the new starting right tackle. I just think they got positions that they really needed to, as you said, they're almost there. And I feel like they got the positions that they needed. And they had a ton of quantity with their picks, but it was the quality with those picks that they made that I felt that they made it hard to be, any team who drafted after them would make it hard to be, because I think that they drafted well for what they were supposed to get to help Tua and to get where they need to be in the next season. The reason I think the Raiders did the worst, I just don't think there's just not very inspiring picks for me. They went safety happy, and they don't have the best offensive line. They have defensive tackle, glaring needs there. And only their final pick addressed either position. And then I just think that they haven't done what they need to do for getting their, overall haul before hosting their game in Vegas, personally.
Yeah. It's hard to argue that the Dolphins didn't do very well in their pick for sure. I have to say though, and I might get a little flack for this. If I have to look, the Raiders definitely had some challenges. They were not loved. They mostly, if you look at grades, which I'm not a big fan of draft grades, but if you look at the grades, they got a lot of C's, they got a D from some people that they just didn't quite get there. And I think most people base that on the Leatherwood pick in the first round. I think that the people had a really hard time with it. However, that their safety that they got out of TCU, is it Morig? I think is how you say it. People loved that pick. But I will say the Rams, I don't get why they drafted the way they did. It was very confusing to me. I I look at those picks and I think that there must have been some arguments between some people, even though they had the big, beautiful Malibu house. I think that it was interesting.
Oh God, yeah. They basically rented Cliff Kingsbury's from last year, just to make it out like they were super cool this year.
Yeah, and then they had a real questionable draft. I don't know. It was real interesting. All right, so our second question I'm going to give to you, Liz. So Chris Lofton asks us, do you each have one draft pick? Oh, I guess they want each, but let's start with Liz. Do you each have one draft pick that feels like the perfect fit for a team that took them?
God, okay, my knowledge sucks when it comes to the draft, and you know what, last year was the first time I ever watched it. Boo, I know, but this girl needs sleep, and I can't keep up with, college football, although I do love watching a random game on a Saturday night when it's here. So I did some reading up on a lot of different players, and here, I really think the perfect fit, it has to be, and I fear it's obvious, but it's the number one pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars, so Trevor Lawrence. Now, this is a team that's about to enter their 26th season, and they've been searching for so long to find their first, all-pro quarterback. And they've got it in Lawrence. So, I think that's the perfect fit here.
Mm-hmm. Shona, what about you? Is there one pick that feels like it fits perfectly for the team?
I was like, Mac Jones is going to slide to the Patriots. It's written in the stars. And there you go. He's now at the Patriots. I was watching the first round and, you kept hearing about how Matt Jones wasn't being picked, Justin Fields wasn't being picked, and this just kept going on and on and on until eventually they were picked. I think there was a lot of hype around Mac Jones, and I think that's kind of like what Belichick wants, because people were thinking, there's a lot of hype around him, but he doesn't actually live up to this expectation. The Sith Lord has his new apprentice, so we'll see how that all how that unfolds. I mean, he's going to learn under, I think, a great quarterback under Cam Newton, and I think that's what he needs. And I felt it kind of fit the whole Patriots kind of looking for their new kid on the block, and I feel like Matt Jones kind of fits that sort of rhetoric for them.
Yeah. So if I had to pick one, I would have to probably go with the Kansas City Chiefs. And I wrote in my article I had yesterday and Our Turf, and about how the rich got richer because the Chiefs draft was fantastic. I mean, they got some depth players later on, but we knew, when you've already got that many great players, you only need depth, right? But their first pick, they didn't have one in the first round. So they had in round 2, they had Nick Bolton, who's a linebacker out of Missouri. He is going to play well for them. He's great. But if I wouldn't have been I was so pissed. I don't know why Seattle didn't take Creed Humphrey. I was livid that they didn't take Creed Humphrey because he landed in Kansas City. And that kid, he's a center. He is going to change things for Patrick Mahomes. And he is going to be a fantastic fit on that offensive line. And I think Chiefs fans should be really excited about their second pick. I think that one's real perfect.
So next up is the biggest draft steals. And I think we can't move on until we talk about the fact that Justin Fields was left for Chicago Bears at pick 11. It wasn't a dream Chicago. Yes, you probably were a bit like the kid going to the ice cream van waiting for your 99p cone. He was there and he is now a Bear. And I was so a bit confused when the 49ers went the way they did, because I was sure Fields would have gone there. Mm-hmm. But the Bears general manager, Ryan Pace, he took advantage of the mistake of others, in my opinion, and he got the Windy City, the franchise quarterback it's been waiting for. I mean, I'm sure they're now quickly deleting their tweet of Andy Dalton being QB1, because he's definitely not QB1 anymore. If you look at Fields' PFF grade, he had a 91.5 in 2019 and 93.5 in 2020. That's both through the air and on the ground, both of which were the top 5 marks among the quarterbacks. He holds onto the ball maybe a bit too long against blitzes, but this is things that they can work on. He's a young guy, and he might already be the best quarterback this franchise has ever had. And we haven't even seen him play at Soldier Field yet, but basically they should be renaming it the Justin Fields Stadium, whatever, because that pick, I couldn't believe it. I don't think the Bears fans could believe it, but there you go. That's the beauty of the draft. The next one for me, I would say, was, I don't really know how you say his name, was Penei Sewell?
Penei.
Sewell. There we go. Penei Sewell. So I gave you a fancy new Loved. Gosh, for seeking person. He was the top tackle prospect, and he obviously went to the Lions, but he didn't. Obviously, he went outside the top 5, which was quite a surprise for everybody because he was the top tackle prospect in the draft. He was the top number 1 product from Oregon, and I think it's what they need at the Lions. It's something that they've been missing for quite a few years now, and it's just a shame that he is going to be doing it for golf. But we'll move on. And another one for me was Stone Forsythe. Right, he got picked 208, and he got picked for the Seattle Seahawks. And I'm not just saying this because I am a Seahawks fan. He was ranked to go at 82, so he kind of did slide a little bit in terms of if people do look at draft, like how people are going to pick in the draft, like pre-draft guides. But he literally does look like The Rock when he was about 17 years old. So that's interesting. And he might just become the offensive lineman Russell Wilson's dreamed of adding this offseason after, he's voiced his frustration with the current group of pass protectors. I've looked at some videos of his, and he's a very, very big, scary man to face against. So good luck, NFC West.
He is 6'8", 307 pounds.
Okay.
6'8". I said Russell Wilson won't be able to see over the top of him. He's so damn tall. But I think you're right. I think that he's gonna be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm scared to even watch him, and I'm a Seattle Seahawks fan. So, So who did you guys think? Or do you agree with my picks, or do you think there was other people that were more biggest draft steals?
Yeah, I think that your picks are pretty spot on. I would add one more though. At pick 47, the Los Angeles Chargers picked up Asante Samuel Jr. Now that name's going to sound familiar to football fans because Asante Samuel played the NFL. This is his son, and he is a cornerback out of Florida State. I think in a couple of years, maybe 2 years out, when you can really evaluate a draft, it's usually about 2 to 3 years after the draft, right? And I think that he's going to end up being the best pick of the draft. That's no shade to the quarterbacks that were picked. And I know that everyone knows that I love defense, but I just think this kid is going to be explosive. I don't understand how he got to the second round. I thought for sure he would go in the first round, but he didn't. And so he's athletic. He's instinctive. He is a perfect fit for the Chargers. And I think he's going to be around for a while. I'm pretty impressed with this kid. So it should be a lot of fun to watch.
All right, so on to our final topic, the 2021 NFL OTA and off-season program. So the off-season has officially started, and that's been split into 3 phases. The first phase that's already started. It's started on the 19th of April, and that lasts for 4 weeks until the 14th of May. The second phase for 1 week from the 17th to the 21st of May, and the third phase from the 24th of May for 4 weeks till June 18th. So what does that all mean? Well, on-field work is not permitted to start until the second phase. Traditional OTAs, they'll take place during the third phase of the off-season, and that will go on for 10 days. Now, teams, they are expected to comply with recommendations in terms of the weight room capacity and also to limit the number of people in a facility. So just like they have been last season with the coronavirus testing and whatnot, there's also going to be testing protocols in place to help reduce that risk where possible. Rookie minicamps can be held on either the first or second weekend following the draft, and these are 3 days long. Now, given the number of players who opted out of the college football last season, this off-season right now couldn't be more important, as for some, this will be their first team environment since the 2019 season. The mandatory veteran minicamps, they take place during phase 3 of the off-season. Now, there's a huge question around whether they have to take part in these off-season activities. Well, technically no, except for the mandatory minicamp. The off-season program itself, that is voluntary. Understandably, the NFL Players Association didn't agree to the plan, and they've been pushing for an all-virtual off-season. This disagreement between them and the NFL has led to the encouragement of players boycotting all voluntary activities, and there are already many teams that have been informed that their players will not be attending the optional workouts. Due to the terms of the collective bargaining agreement, the NFL can proceed with its plans without agreement, and they can decide on the OTA schedule and the off-season program without the NFLPA's consent. So the NFLPA released a statement on behalf of the Pittsburgh Steelers, referencing the success of the 2020 approach. They said, "A virtual off-season helps keep us safe to not only start but finish the regular season as safely as possible, and it makes no sense for us to risk infection or injury in the spring if we don't have to. The protections we had in place last year are not fully in place now and remain unclear." Now, the NFLPA isn't pushing for every team to skip voluntary workouts. However, the Buffalo Bills, the Green Bay Packers, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Kansas City Chiefs are among the teams likely to participate. Now, those 4 teams have a significant number of players with workout bonuses in their contracts. Skipping parts of the off-season, that would limit their earning potential, which is something the NFLPA is keen to avoid. So, ladies, what do you think to all of this?
Well, here's the way you got to look at it. And you said this word multiple times, and I think that people really need to understand it. A lot of these workouts are voluntary. There is nothing that says that they have to do them. And with the success of last year, the players came in, most of them were in fantastic shape, ready to go. I can see where players are like, no, I can do this on my own. I can do my workouts in my hometown, in my gym with my private trainers, because it worked out just fine last year. Where this can hinder people, of course, is the rookies, right? Because they have to get in and they have to learn. But I think we need to look at it from 2 different points of view. And that can be hard for people, but we need to be open-minded. Is that these athletes, their entire livelihood rests on them being healthy, right? And so it is going to be very important for them to do everything that they can in order to stay healthy. The other thing is that the NFL is asking all the players to get vaccinated for COVID. Well, that hasn't happened yet. Will it happen? Yes, probably. There might be a handful that don't, and that's a whole different conversation. But so they need to give a little time. This gives a little extra time to make sure that that all gets done. The other thing, the other side of it, though, that we have to look at is that to some football fans, this drives me crazy if I stumble a little bit. They think it shows that the team is weak, that they're not devoted enough, that they're not, in it to win it, because they won't go to these voluntary workouts. So here's the thing. We have to remember, this is not the NFL of 10 years ago. This isn't the NFL of 15 years ago. This is a different world where these athletes aren't taking the off season where they get out of shape. They, go on vacation, eat like crap, drink like crazy. They don't do that. They work out and stay in shape year round, because that is how they make their money and that's how they do well. And so I think that we have to stop putting expectations of 10 years ago on current athletes, because it's a different world. We're in a pandemic still, even though it's getting better, at least somewhat getting better, but we're still in it. And so if they want a full season and they want full stadiums, let these athletes work through these voluntary workouts the way they want to.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying, Dayna. And I've said this numerous of times last season, and I'll probably say it again this season. We need to remember that these are, human beings too. They're not just they're not just our players that are, dedicated to a team. They have families to look out for. They have their own livelihoods to look out for. And if they want to work out at home and still keep in shape, I'll bet, maybe a bit different for the rookies who are eager to join up with the team. We just have to let them do that, and we have to accept it, because we're living in a different world now. We're living in a COVID world. And I'm wishing we weren't living in a COVID world, but we still are. So we need to be mindful of that and just appreciate that we even have NFL to look forward to.
Right, guys, before we end the show, we've got some more of our listener questions. So the first one is again from Chris Lawton. He asks, is Aaron Rodgers' time with the Packers in serious, wait for it, jeopardy?
No. Such a bad joke.
Hashtag jokes.
I mean, I don't know what the Packers were doing in the draft, because I thought they would either have like a insurance option of a quarterback because their starting quarterback has basically told them, I don't want to ever play for you guys ever again. That's essentially what he said in a nutshell. So I don't know. I mean, this scenario is going to be playing out, I think, for the whole off season, and I'm going to be really interested to see where he ends up. And I feel like it could either go the way that the Packers and Aaron Rodgers get what they want, or it's going to be like that gif, like, hey, Ron, you messed up.
Here's the thing. I love how this news broke right before the draft, like literally hours before the draft, that Aaron Rodgers wasn't happy. Well, if you paid attention, Aaron Rodgers has been unhappy since Mike McCarthy. I mean, this has been a minute, right? Mm-hmm. And so it starts to question, what is Aaron Rodgers just unhappy? Or, does he have a point? And the funny thing is that I really feel like Aaron Rodgers got a lot more sympathy than Russell Wilson did. It was like they were basically saying the same thing, but the Seahawks and Russell Wilson's story went on for months, and Aaron Rodgers was dumped, and they're immediately. And the reason why, because the team came out and said, hell no, we're not getting rid of him. We're not going to do it. It'll be interesting to see what happens when it comes down to training camp, and will Aaron Rodgers hold out? But at the same time, he's a 36-year-old quarterback who the team is going to want 4 first-round picks for. Really? Is that what you want to do? I don't know. So we'll see. So I think the question is Aaron Rodgers' time with the Packers in serious jeopardy, or are we just coming to the close of Aaron Rodgers' career? Which is sad to say, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the Seahawks did come out and be like, no, we're still not trading Russell. And then it would be like another like pundit going, yeah, but the Bears want Russell. And I was just like, no, they literally just
because there was nothing else to talk about.
And the final question comes from Claire de Bear. She asks, which team would you like to see on Hard Knocks this year and why? And I think she mentioned that it can't be a team with a new coach. I think that's their stipulation. So, yeah, who would you like to see?
I thought that I could be wrong, but I thought that new coaches could opt out if they wanted to. Because didn't the Raiders do Hard Knocks the first year of Gruden, or was it the second year of Gruden? Anyway, I can't remember, but she has a point. Hard Knocks is interesting. It gives the average fan a little peek into football life and that sort of thing. If I had time to look at any team, it's like, do you want to go dumpster fire or championship probable? Because if it's dumpster fire, I'm all in on the Houston Texans. Like, I want to see.
Oh my God, yes.
They think they're going to do, right? And then if it's a good team or an up and coming team, I think it would be really interesting to see the Colts this year. I think that would be to see kind of how they do with all that talent they have and how they can kind of break out of that. So same division, which is interesting, I guess. But yeah, it kind of depends on which way you want to lean.
Oh, it would have to be Texans for me, because that is a hot mess in a minute with a dumpster fire approaching within 2.5 seconds while they're trying to have a barbecue. It is just all a mess. And it's so interesting to watch.
Yeah. And the other show is like All or Nothing, but I'm sure I saw a press release about that saying that there isn't going to be one of that for this year because of the pandemic. So, which would be a shame because I've loved that show. But yeah, I've got a feeling from what I've read on the NBC website that there isn't going to be a All or Nothing season this time around.
No, that's a pity, because I love those things, because they are teams that generally want to win a championship, unlike the Houston Texans.
It makes sense though, because All or Nothing, they follow for an entire season.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whereas Hard Knocks, it's just training camp. So I could see why that would be harder to pull that off logistically for an entire season.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, Houston Texan fans, we love you and we're with you.
I feel for you.
I really do. But if you want to have follow a division that's going to be fun, you could always watch the NFC West.
Or the AFC West. I think the AFC West is going to be fun this year too. So
yeah.
So go
better divisions than your one.
Well, that's all for this week's episode of Endzone Scoop. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you've got a listener question you'd like to ask us, message us through social media at Endzone Scoop. You'll find us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Until next time, thanks for listening.